This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. And wait a second, we're having an issue with Facebook, so I just have to fix something. So wait a second. So you always want to make sure that that works, right? I just want to make sure that we're on that channel, so I had to adjust something. So here we go. And yeah, we should be live on Facebook now. Yeah, so this is Fan Electric Ghost Podcast, and we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch live. We have Stacey Kelleher here today. You can check out the website, staceykellehermusic.com, for those of you on the audio podcast. And you can listen on Newsly. We are a featured podcast on Newsly. Use coupon code GHOST and receive a month free premium subscription so you can stop scrolling and start listening. This podcast will be on Newsly later today. So thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm super excited for this.
Well, it's always fun to have a musician on the podcast. That we started podcasting in 2016. We always started with emerging and independent artists. That was our focus, and we actually focus on a lot of female singer-songwriters. It's been our focus from the beginning. We've had primarily female singer-songwriters on the show. We feel like they don't get enough attention, so we're glad to have you on the show tonight or today.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So you have a brand new song out, and we'll talk about it. Overcommitted.
Yeah.
Questions when we start talking to artists that we always ask them, like, the first thing we ask is like, when did you get into music? At what age?
Yeah, I remember doing music ever since I was a really, really small child. I remember I started doing actual lessons. I started piano lessons when I was 6, but I had been singing like ever since I could even speak. And I remember falling in love with piano, and I asked my parents to start me in guitar too. So I did that starting at age 9. And then from there on out, it was like every musical thing that I could possibly do, whether it was band or chorus or an a cappella group or anything at all. Like I tried to do it, and I just always loved everything regarding music from then forward.
Did you ever try theater because I know a lot of musicians, we get into our stagecraft. You think about like Bowie
Mhm.
and Lady Gaga, that theater actually is a big part of it. Cause like when you go on stage, it's kind of like the other you, it's like the stage you, like your persona. Do you ever like work on that from a theatrical kind of point of view?
Yeah, I did theater for 4 or 5 years. I did it all throughout high school. And I loved it. And I loved like having a character that I had to fully like embody. And it was so cool because it's almost like you leave you behind, just like you were saying, and you get to step into the stage you, whoever that is. So for sure. And
Mhm.
I feel like a lot of the times, like if I'm going to be playing a show or anything like that, and I feel a little nervous or a little worried about, is this going to go wrong? Is that going to go wrong? I kind of remind myself to step into that version of me on stage. And that always helps me kind of like get in the zone. So yeah, my theater days were very fun.
Do you find like when you get on stage that you kind of get in a zone? And I've talked to artists like some artists until they get on stage, they're kind of like not very comfortable. And then once they get on stage, it's like they become that other person, and they that seems like a totally different version of themselves. And they kind of, if you ask them do you remember what you were doing? They kind of were such in the zone that they're like they just fell into that character, or they fell into that space of being the artist. Do
Hmm.
you feel that like when you get that becomes like an yourself, or is just a different version of yourself?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I feel like as an artist, I feel like I really feed off of like the crowd. So, especially when
Hmm.
I am playing a show where the crowd is super interactive and is very like responsive, that really like allows me to really get into that for sure. But oh, yeah, like sometimes I'll be playing a show and afterwards it feels almost like it was like a dream, or like, yeah, I'll be like, oh, did
Yeah,
we play that song? And yeah, because I just get so into it that like it's kind of crazy. Like I feel like I don't really even have to like super focus on what I'm doing. It just kind of
yeah. comes
Happens.
natural.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like, athletes, like you have the muscle memory.
Mm,
Being a musician, we practice so much, right? We spend so much time that people don't see all the work that goes into what you do, right? You spend so
yes.
much time crafting a song, crafting an album, crafting a show, rehearsing with your band, that there's so much like inherent like muscle memory, like an athlete practicing the 3-point shot. Like you've got so much of that it becomes like, and you don't even have to think about it. Once you
Mhm.
get out there, you just have it, and then because you feed on the crowd, you might reinterpret your song a little bit before because you're feeling a different way. And as an artist,
Oh,
as a
yeah.
creative, I think a lot of times we adjust to the moment, and it becomes that unique performance, which I always love about live music. Is I hate it if a band just stays totally on the backing track and is just totally just following the single. I like to hear the variation, the kind of
Yeah.
honesty of the actual live of me.
Yeah. Me too, for sure.
So we will get into like we have your song we're going to bring up overcommitted, and I just have to set that up. And so I always like to have an example when I have a musician on of your music, so then we can play that, and then we can talk about how your sound, how you came about putting that song overcommitted together. So I'm just going to start to set that up. I'm just going to have to present that screen, so we're going to start now, and it's going to pop up because I've got it. Good. So there it is.
Yeah.
You can see it. Yeah, there's your song.
Mhm.
So yeah, we want to play this, and then we'll put it on mute, put you on mute, and we're gonna play the whole song, the 3 minutes and 28 seconds, and then we'll come back and we'll actually discuss it. So if that's
Sounds
cool with you,
good.
we're actually gonna kick that off right now.
Let's do
So
it.
here we go.
Double booked myself again. When did I last see my friends? Calendars and tiny print. Still can't fit all that shit in. Even need a break from my weekend. Feels like I'm running on fumes. Does anybody feel like this too? I'm overcommitted, think I'm addicted, pushing my limits, can't say no, so I just don't. Who am I kidding? This isn't living, no. I live my life, I can't complain. So why do I constantly feel drained? Don't wanna quit it, guess I'll admit it to myself. Damn, I'm overcommitted. Ooh, I'm overcommitted. Ooh, living just to cross off days. Tell myself it's just a phase. And someday soon I'll slow down, but that someday's not right now. I'm always late and I'm stressed out, gonna run myself right in the ground. I'm overcommitted, think I'm addicted, pushing my limits, can't say no, so I just don't. Who am I kidding? This isn't living, no. I live my life, I can't complain. So why do I constantly feel drained? Don't wanna quit it, guess I'll admit it to myself. Damn, I'm overcommitted. Ooh, I'm overcommitted. So I just don't. Feels like I'm running on fumes. Does anybody feel like this too? Always feel like I need an excuse just to take a little time, and that's why I'm overcommitted. How I'm overcommitted. I'm overcommitted, think
addicted, pushing my limits, can't say no, so I just don't. Who am I kidding? This isn't living, no. I love my life, I can't complain, so why do I constantly feel drained? Don't wanna quit it, guess I'll admit it to myself. Damn, I'm overcommitted. I'm overcommitted. I'm overcommitted. I'm overcommitted.
That was Overcommitted, and I really love that song. I like the guitar, the keyboard, like all that the pieces of it. It's very
Thank you.
expansive. And
Yeah, thank you
because
so
I'm a
much.
synthesist, so I can hear the synths and I can hear the layering and the production on it. And I like the silence part where you actually can hear the guitar, without the other layers on it. It's just a
Oh
very
yeah.
interesting song too, because I think a lot of people, being a podcaster, I can find myself in that situation. I end up scheduling, and then people will put my podcast like back to back, and I'm like, oh, I should kind of tell people I don't really want to do like 3 shows in a row.
Yeah, that's a
Like,
lot.
because there's like there's hardly a break. You kind of get overcommitted to it, or if you're a producer and you get like 15 bands you got to produce at once, and then you're like, oh,
Right.
am I really giving everybody the time they really deserve because I'm trying to, do so much. So is that the kind of spirit of the song? I mean, you can kind of get it from the lyrics, but the place you were
Yeah,
in,
yeah. Yeah, 100%. I feel like I wrote it with a couple friends of mine who are in Nashville. They're both writers, Emily Kirkless and Fran Littersky. They're amazing. And we were just kind of talking about, we wrote the song, I think it was last May. So it's been almost a year. And we were just talking about how busy I was and how busy we all were at the time. And just, I've always been like not very good at like maintaining like free time for myself. Like, even just like, I
hmm
have like 2 days off a week, like most people do. They're not traditional days off, but
yeah,
I almost never end up having like an actual day off because I will
go do
have a
something.
show. Yeah, I'll have a show or I'll be working on music or whatever, which obviously I love doing. But also, I kind of realized in that writing session, I was like, man, like I think I have a problem like telling people, like, no, like I
Oh,
actually can't
yeah,
schedule this then because I need to like do nothing, you know? So, yeah, that's definitely where it came from. And since it's come out, like, I've had a lot of people, especially like creatives and freelancers and small business owners, be like, I
yeah.
feel
It's
this. Like, did you look at
a
my
problem.
calendar?
Well, it's a problem
Yeah.
because it's hard to say no, and it's hard to like if you're like I'm a consultant, so like I want to get as much work as I can. Right,
Right.
and I'm an independent producer. I try to get as much work as I can, and so, like, you feel like, well, if I that might be a mistake if I say no, because,
Hmm.
I need to keep busy because I need to keep the thing going, and I gotta have a reserve, I gotta have stuff, and it's like you feel, like, guilty if you're not working, like, "Oh, I shouldn't be, like, being lazy," but we're not really
Yeah.
lazy, we're, like, working too much, and then I had to start pushing breaks, I'm a Buddhist, and I was like, "I'm gonna go do my chanting." I'm
Yep.
like a Nichiren Daishonin Buddhist, so I'm gonna actually I have to stop. I need to take an hour. I need to meditate. I need to go walk in the woods. I need to do
Yeah.
this force is like, hey, I'm not doing any podcasting. I'm not doing any production today. I'm not going to do it. It's like, I'm going to say no. And it's hard because like because if you're out there, you're like, well, I don't want to miss an opportunity. Right. But
Yeah.
you have to get space for yourself. You have to start building up like a boundary, a certain point for yourself, I think.
Yes. Yes, for sure. Which, yeah, I'm definitely still working on. It's a work in progress, but I think even just like recognizing it and knowing that you want to make more time for yourself is really important and a great like first step to it for sure.
Now, when you write a song, do you initially start on guitar or start on piano? Does it matter because a lot of singer songwriters, like a lot of people say, well, I don't know. It's like every song kind of gets born a different way. So it would
Yeah.
be in that kind of perspective that said, it kind of whatever the song required.
Yeah. I will most of the time start on guitar just because usually I'll either like go to somebody else's like house or studio or whatever to write. And so I always have my guitar with me. And that's definitely like my primary instrument here in
Hmm.
Nashville. But I was a piano player first and I love to write on piano. I don't do it as much, but it's almost nice because whenever I do write on piano, I feel like whatever it is that I'm writing about, the song will just come so fast because I'm just so
Yeah,
like
yeah,
inspired because it's a different instrument. But that being said, I've also like not as much for me, but I have written to like tracks before too, like
hmm,
for sync or for other people or for whatever. But for me, yeah, usually guitar, sometimes piano, but sometimes I'll like start with like a melody and then go from there. So I feel like yeah, every time is kind of different, but usually there's a guitar
right?
somewhere.
Yeah. Well, I'm a keyboardist. I usually will start with a piano tone on my Juno
Hmm.
or something. I'll set my Yamaha or my Juno just to do like a grand piano, like 88
Sure.
key grand piano type of sound. And I would just throw my multi track on. Because I found as like a long time ago, I said, well, you know what? I better always hit the multi track record because I even if it's just I'm just fooling around. A lot of times when you're just fooling around, that's when something great happens. So I was like, I just
Hmm.
automatically put it on. And then lately, I've been actually going and doing Facebook Live and YouTube Live rehearsals just to
Okay.
force myself to stop from doing like a start and stop. So I'll just do like a jam and then I'll record it at
Nice.
the same time. And then I find that the nuggets in there are actually I go back to and I say, wow, I could actually do something with that. So I think if I go into a recording session and I don't go live like that, then I'll be like starting and stop and doing this and doing that.
Yeah.
If I actually do it as like a performance, then it forces me to try to take an idea and recover even if I make a mistake, and it
Hmm.
just creates a different type of dynamic. I was reading like Frank Zappa used to
Yeah.
record all his live stuff and then go back to his house and listen to the tapes and then say, "Oh, this goes with this and this goes with that." And I said, "Well, that's kind of a cool idea." And I started like, "Yeah, I think I have to do what Frank was doing,
Yeah.
but
That is super
that
cool idea.
it's just a
Yeah.
different way." Yeah, because people get in front of their DAW, and then they get stuck on the bars, and then they get
Yes.
into that kind of thing. And I kind of feel I like the natural feel of like, hey, but what if I was like in a club just doing like an unplugged in my
Sure.
bedroom? It feels more natural, you know what I mean? But
Yeah. And more inspiring as well. It feels less
yeah.
like you're staring at a DAW for sure.
Yeah, it's a dog. Like, yeah, it's a whole thing today because like we've got so many like digital tools that can take the
Yeah.
heart out of music, and now we've got like AI. And always asking like the new question I ask artists. They've got these new AI computer programs that can add like virtual like backup players or studio musicians, right? And I was talking to
Mm.
this producer and like, yeah, I can use this virtual AI and I can make a virtual bass player and a virtual drummer and I can just start playing chords and they'll start coming in. And I'm like, I don't know if I really like that. I
Yeah.
can see people using it, but then I'm like, I don't know if I should rail against it. But what do you think about that on the first take of it?
Yeah, I mean it's so wild like even just to think about. It's crazy. I think for me, I think I fall on the same kind of side as you where I'm like I feel like I would like want to either make those decisions myself or let my players or band make them myself.
Mhm,
I also recently saw, speaking of AI, um I saw this thing where AI can make like a voice of like a famous artist, like
mhm,
Taylor
yeah,
Swift or Harry Styles, and make it like say
say,
stuff.
yeah, that they
Yeah,
didn't
or
say.
yeah, and that to me was like
I
borderline
don't like that
scary.
at all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that I actually saw a DJ. Not that I want to put down DJs, but I kind of go this way. But there was a DJ, and I won't say his name, went and took basically had I don't know if it was Kurt Cobain. He took somebody and he made them say something that they never said. Right. So I'm like,
Mhm.
like Kurt Cobain loves trance. Like he would have never said that, right? So he went and made him say that in his song and played it live, and he was all happy about it, pushing it all over social media, saying he thought it was amazing. And I said, well, what if the artist doesn't want you to say that, and you're using
Yeah.
their voice? I think it might be like a legal issue. And to me, it's like it's a like if that's my voice, like if it's Billy Joel's voice or your voice or Taylor Swift's voice or whoever's voice, and you're saying something that they never would have said, and then you put that in your performance, it's like I think lawyers might start coming after you and say, like, I don't
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was hearing it and I was listening to some of them and I was like, this is, yeah, this is weird.
Yeah, it just seems like you're kind of taking, like because I understand music like if I'm playing jazz and there's a lot of jazz standards, right? And if I go back and I want to play something from Weather Report and I go play one of their standards, right? Like, okay, I could play something and it's inspired by, I'm not sampling it, I'm just playing the keys that they did, right? But I played it in a
Mhm.
different way. That's different than lift the whole thing and then reworking it and then saying it's yours, and
Right.
I have a problem with people kind of, taking like Ice Ice Baby took like a David Bowie Queen song and
Yep.
just put different lyrics on top of it. It wasn't
Yep.
like a reinterpretation. It wasn't like De La Soul or Public Enemy or old school hip hop where they actually layered so many versions of it that you couldn't even hear what it really was and it became something new.
Right.
It's
Right.
more
Right.
like
Right.
it's like just lifted and cut and paste around. I'm like, well, that doesn't seem as creative as it could be.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that as well.
So, like when you write your own material, like I think I've read who you're inspired by. Maybe you can tell the audience who are the people that inspired you, the people you look up to, that kind of like influenced your music.
Sure. Yeah. Growing up, I listened to like all different kinds of music. My parents were really into like country and like classic rock and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And so I listened to like everything from like Elton John to Queen to George Strait, like just so much different stuff. And I knew some jazz as well. Like I listened to Tony Bennett, who my grandfather was a huge fan of, and Frank Sinatra. But then as I
Mm,
got a little older, like my preteen years and teen years, I got really into pop music. And I remember I went to like a smaller private school for a while. And I remember it was right around the time when I left that school and switched to public school in like the eighth grade that I like underwent like a whole new like musical awakening. Like I was listening to everything from like Katy Perry to like a lot of stuff that I heard would be like the Glee cast versions of
uh-huh.
songs. And that's how I heard a lot of songs for the first time. But I loved like Taylor Swift, obviously. I loved Miley Cyrus. I loved all of those people that were coming out of like the Disney scene, like Demi
Yeah,
Lovato and
Disney.
Selena Gomez.
Mhm.
And obviously, I loved Justin Bieber. And yeah, I got into like dance music. Like I would listen to like Kimbra and like
Okay, bro. Yeah, I remember
Swedish
that.
House Mafia, like just all kinds of stuff. Like I just loved how different everything was. And I remember I would always kind of like really focus in on like the different production elements and I would be like, what's that? Like I would just want to know what each
Yeah.
like little weird sound was. But yeah, I'm still definitely really heavily influenced by all that stuff. But I would say the artists that influence me the most now for my stuff are definitely like Maggie Rogers. I love Harry
Mhm,
Styles. I love John Mayer. I love what he does with guitar and
mhm,
songwriting. I really love Lennon Stella. She came out of Nashville and she was actually on the TV show Nashville. And I love
mhm.
Holly Humberstone, Phoebe Bridgers. I mean, I'm kind of all over the place. I also do still like country music. I'm really into like LANY Wilson. I think she's really cool and I love her songwriting. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the map, but I think that's cool because I like to fuse
Yeah.
like different genres together. I don't really like to cut and paste
Yeah.
do one thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I like a lot of stuff.
That's why I got when I started, I got into this idea of expansive because I grew up in a house. My brother was 7 years older than me. He's listening to Hendrix and Zeppelin. My dad's listening to Nat King Cole. My mom's listening to the Carpenters. And my brother
Hmm.
likes Stevie Wonder and Hendrix. So I'm hearing all this stuff. And then
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I love it all. Right. So then when I got into music, I initially, because I started doing like a band in like 79, 1980. And we
Nice.
were listening to like the Clash and the Sex Pistols. And then New Wave showed up, MTV showed up. And I saw like Joy Division. And I said,
Yep.
what the heck is this? And then I would start going to Guitar Center and finding old keyboards, finding old Moogs that back then, SH 101s and stuff. And I said, yeah, I want to see what these like the Cure and Duran Duran New Wave, because New Wave was like punk and funk and disco and rock all at the same time. A lot of these bands
Hmm.
were mixing multiple genres in one record. And I said, wow, that's cool because that's like kind of what I'm hearing in my house. And then I
Yeah.
thought when I started doing my music, I said, well, I'm going to call it expansive. Means like funk, I could rock. I like outlaw country. I like Johnny Cash. I love
Yeah.
Folsom Prison Blues, or the band and Bob Dylan, or the Grateful Dead. I like that kind of
Yep.
weird, jams. I love jam band. I saw the Allman Brothers one time at Great Woods, and
Oh,
Dickie
cool.
Betts was playing. I'm like, wow, like that's awesome. I saw Greg Allman's on the B3 Hammond. I'm like, yes, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Nice.
that's it. I just
Hmm.
love when I see musicians just get into it. When I saw Funkadelic one time, and it's to
Oh,
see
nice.
George Clinton and that whole band. There's like 20 guys on stage playing. And I said, that is so fantastic to see this collective, all musicians. It was kind of like jazz and funk and rock and psychedelia all at the same time. And I've always been a big fan of like cross genre in that way because I think that's where
Hmm.
where you get something cool is when you take different elements of rock and country and hip hop and everything. You can kind of meld it together and you can get something new.
Yeah. Definitely.
So I can hear like the kind of new wave, kind of like an Enya or like an expansive, like atmospheric thing. It was in your song, but then there's like the guitar. There's that acoustic guitar playing in there, so I can hear that, and then I hear the singer songwriter aspect of you telling a story. You're actually, saying something. It's a complete thought. It's not just trying to hit like a riff or a melody and just repeating it. So that's what I always like about singer songwriters. Is that what appealed to you as a singer songwriter? Because you want to tell a story, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But also you can make it your own thing by picking and choosing from those different elements from different genres and then like you said like making it a whole new thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's just really cool when you do like the idea of a signing. And I think
Yeah.
like one of the people that, one of the band I think that everybody talks about that really got people into music is the Beatles. The idea of the
Mm,
Beatles, of what people might not realize, is the Beatles actually created the idea of an album, right? They actually made it work because before that, it was all singles. And we're kind of back into an era of singles, even though the Beatles had created the album like late 60s into the mid 70s and the 80s. Albums was like the album format, which they kind of Sergeant Pepper's and Abbey Road and White Album. They created the kind of framework that you can have this thing that's beyond a single, that like the
right.
whole album can represent a feel. And then you have all the singer songwriters in the 70s building these classic albums that people still listen to today because it's not just one song. You go back, you
Yeah.
listen to Pink Floyd, you listen to, any of the great artists from that time period. It's like a complete thought is the record.
Yeah.
So what do you feel about like the Spotify playlist and the kind of we're in this kind of singles era that we're kind of back to the 50s where things are single focused and maybe they'll be on a playlist, but it's not as album focused as it used to be.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel several different ways about it. I mean, I think it's great for like independent artists like myself because doing just, a one off song here and there is definitely like more manageable financially because you can kind of make the song, get it paid for, promote it for a couple months, and then do it all over again, which is great. But that being said, I'm definitely like an album person myself. Like I love sitting down with an album and just listening to it front to back. And I really can't wait to hopefully make an album someday. So I don't know. It's super interesting. Like once you release a song and then, again, as an independent artist, you reach out to all the playlists and hope that it gets on some with like substantial audience and likes and stuff. And obviously like that's super important nowadays, but also it can be an added thing that you have to do. But also I definitely am
Work,
like, yeah, but at the same time, like even though I do love albums, I also love like listening to playlists and making my own playlists. And I love creating like mood based playlists. So like if I'm trying to just get
Mhm.
some work done and I want to just pick and choose a few songs from like different albums that I like. I do love that. But yeah, I would love to see the album like become important again because I think that as musicians, like that's kind of the whole reason of why we do it is to create that project that hopefully,
Yeah,
lasts a
you
lifetime.
just
So
yeah, you just you do see some, like, artists are able to still kinda live in that world, like Lana Del Rey just released a thing and her new album, it's album focused. It's not just, that her whole project that is like it's about actually getting into that and listening to the whole
sure.
thing. And the problem, I guess,
Yeah.
today is it's hard with so much music out there, unless you're a big name like a Lana Del Rey, can you get a fan to go and listen to 45 minutes if you're not famous, right? So if you're not,
Right.
they're more likely to probably listen to your 2 minute, 3 minute song than a 45-minute effort if they don't know who you are. So
Yeah.
I get like why we have to do it. It's just that, like, yeah, I still, I come from the era where I was listening to vinyl or 8 track. And, the thing about vinyl was like you didn't skip around because you couldn't. Or you usually
Right.
wouldn't. Like, if you put it on, you wouldn't do it. So you would listen to Dark Side of the Moon all the way through. You
Yep.
know, you know, that's and it kind of was like the way Pink Floyd did their albums meant to be heard. They had singles like Money, but when you listen to like whole thought like Wish You Were Here or Dark Side of the Moon, it is an entire piece. That really
Yeah.
is the way it's heard. And there's people who write like that, but it's harder with all the diversions. I think back in the
Yeah.
70s, I didn't have Twitter, I didn't have a cell phone, didn't have a tablet, didn't have 500 channels. So I think we're living in a world with so many other things that people might do, video games, that we don't get to draw the attention that we used to be able to get from an audience.
Yeah. Agreed.
So you were talking about licensing. Is that's one of the things that I guess as artists we have to get into because we can't do what I just said. Like we have to try to get stuff sync licensed to get things into video games, TV, film, advertisements. So is that something like as an artist you pursue, or you're primarily focused on your singles?
Yeah, I definitely am doing that and super interested in that. I have a lot of friends who primarily do that with their music and it's such a different like writing process when you're writing for sync. Like if I'm writing a song, like I just recently had a session with a friend who does a lot of sync and we wrote a song for potential pitch opportunities and it's so different than like what I make as a
Yeah,
singer-songwriter because my stuff is like super specific and oftentimes about me or something that's happened to me or somebody else that I know. And with sync, it's just like it can be so like just
you're pitching.
simple and yeah, and basic,
Yeah,
which is like
like
for me,
Madison
I'm like,
Avenue thing.
yeah, exactly. And it's like it's almost fun and refreshing to do that sometimes because then
You
you
give
don't
yourself
have to
a
like,
break. Yeah,
yeah,
give
you don't
yourself
have
a
to like,
break.
you don't have to think as much about it.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
cool to
that being
have different
said,
things. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it definitely
But
is.
even
It's nice to
film,
like
like
switch.
it's hard to get into
Yeah.
film though. Like as being a synthesist, I've been working like toward video game
Oh,
soundtracks,
cool.
which is actually
Okay.
like
Yeah.
if you're an instrument, you're more of like because a synthesis, I'm kind of do a lot of instrumental stuff, and so there's a direct kind of correlation. If you're a synth player or somebody that does electronic music, it's mostly instrumentals. You can easily can't get into film and video game soundtracking because it's really interesting. And if somebody gave me a video game and it was kind of like I had to watch it like a film and score it, they gave me like a piece of the game where it was actually basically like you're sitting there like John Williams watching Star Wars and writing to each frame of the game like it's a film. And a lot of
Oh,
video games
wow.
today are kind of built like films. And so when you try to score for them, you do it like a film, which is
Yeah.
a totally different type of thing.
Yeah. A whole different ball game for sure.
But it was fun because it's like it's different than when I go and try to do like a song for me. It was like, oh, I have to score this and actually get the feel, and then talk to the director of the game designer,
Yep.
and say, does this capture what you want? And then you have to have these big long discussions with them, and it's like, no, I don't think it's really doing this and doing that. And it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, I thought it's like, well, you never know what's in their head. They got their own
Yeah.
vision, and I see something, and what I see it and how he sees it or how they see it is different ways. So it's like, oh, I didn't see looking at that.
Yeah.
But
So true.
yeah, it's just the creative process is interesting.
Yeah.
Like when you
Yeah. It really is.
collaborate with people, I was talking to writers, and they have like writing groups, then their draft to. And then the writers come back and say, "Hey, I don't think you got it here or you got it there." And you take it or leave it, or you. But when you're in Nashville, do you have like artists like your like trusted listeners that you send something to that you feel, or or you go with your producer, or how do you go through that?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, I definitely love to like get feedback on songs, especially when they're like new. And something that I really like to do is I love to play songs at writers' rounds or like shows here in town because then it's always super interesting. I feel like whenever I do that, if I play like say 2 or 3 new songs, it's always the one that like I didn't think was like my favorite or like the best
Oh, yeah,
of however many, and people are always like, "Oh yeah, like I liked that whatever song," and I'm like, "Oh
it's not the
yeah,
one you
really?"
thought.
Yeah, yes, yeah, that happened. That happened with my previous EP I released at the end of 2021. It was called Songs So Far, and there was a song on it. It's called Worst Case Scenario, and it was like the middle track. It was ballad, super slow, just piano, and I almost didn't even know if I should include it because it was just
Mhm.
so much different from the other
To
songs,
everything
like
else.
mood wise. Yeah, because it was very like sad and introspective. And I didn't know if it was like too much or like too personal, but I was like, whatever. I like it. We did it. Let's include it. And so many people, I would say the majority of people that I talked to, like said that that was their favorite song. And I was like,
That's the one they like. Yeah,
really?
yeah.
Yeah. So it's always funny how that happens,
That's
but
always like that's what I tell when I work with people because there was somebody will come to me and they got like 30 songs,
mhm.
and then they'll go and they'll pick, they'll say, "Well, here's the 30, but these are the only ones I want to work on." And I was like, "No, wait a minute." And then I'll pick one and it's, well, I don't even want to touch that one. That one's like, oh, I was just, it's too personal. It's too weird. It's too this. And I was like a lot of times as an artist, like you're not the best judge of that because like if you hold on to some of those pieces, like you're missing an opportunity because a lot of people I can understand it because it's like very personal because sometimes you write something and you didn't really mean to, but you got so core personal, it's so close to you that then you're like, I don't know if I want to put this out because then
Yeah.
you're kind of scared of it. But I always
Yep.
tell people like the song you're scared of, that's probably the one.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
that's the one you should let people hear because, like a lot of times, like the artists, you talk. There's all kinds of famous discussions of big artists not picking the right song, and their A&R or their other people around them said, forced them and say, no, this is the right song, and they're like, no, 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 and it was because they didn't even want it on the record, and those ones that didn't want it tend to be the ones that resonate.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'll send like new demos or like a first mix of something. Like I'll send them around to like my close musician friends or even like new like people that I'm writing with and I want them to they're like, "Oh, what are you working
Mhm.
on?" And I'll be like, "Oh yeah, like let me share this with you." And that's always cool too cuz they don't know you, so it's nice to like get
Yeah, I get that
unbiased
feedback.
feedback. Yeah. Yeah. So, but I always love to like send stuff out before I put it out. And also like in terms of like editing things, I have become like I used to. I remember I went to school for music and in college I used to get like so frustrated when like a professor or like a classmate would tell me like, "Oh, you should maybe rework this verse or like this bridge isn't super clear, like you could use some more detail." And it would just frustrate me when I was I guess probably also cuz I was younger, but I just would hate feeling
Mhm.
like I had to go back and redo it cuz I'm like it's done.
Right, right,
Like I wrote it and that's how I was feeling in that moment and that's it.
mhm.
But I over time realized like, okay, like I want to get the best version of the song. If that means having to go back and rework one line or 10 lines or the whole thing. Like if I believe in the song, I want it to be the best version it can be. So I've kind of become the like crazy editor and I'll always like I remember with Overcommitted, I actually was like texting Fran and Emily who I wrote it with and asking them like does it make sense to change this lyric to this or what do you like better or what do you think of this melody in the post chorus instead of this melody and yeah
Mhm.
so I've definitely become very like detail oriented but it I think results in a better end product to be picky.
Yeah, it really it's kinda artist specific. It depends on where your head's at, because, like, at some points, you can get into it where you're really trying to get to the vision and you're going back and reworking, and then other cases, like, trying to do, like, a free form thing, right? I'm trying to do, like, an unplugged thing, and
Mhm.
sometimes so the way I look at it is that some pieces require that level of oversight. And other pieces, like it might just come out as a complete thought, and it's actually good that way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like in some cases when I do a record, I'll have some songs that are more like sketches or demos, and I did other versions, but I felt like the third take is better than the 10th take. And even if it's
Yep.
not perfect, there's something about it. And another song I might have actually put a lot of time into and done tons of overdubs, tons of corrections. And I said, okay, fine. I wanted to turn it into this epic. It's kind of like whatever serves the song. So you don't
Yep.
necessarily have to do it for every song, but it's kind of like what serves the song in that for that particular moment might need that level of detail, and other songs can be more like, especially if you do albums, then you can allow
Yes.
some things to be more experimental, a little off. And that's why I like about the album format is because that you can throw some experimental stuff or something that's a little discordant or something that's a little different, because you might have a couple singles in there and those you actually made show that they're perfect, right? But the other
Mhm.
ones are more like, I do want people to see that. And that's where, when you're single focused, then you kind of get maybe stuck in the perfect, trying to make everything perfect all the time. And then if you can't do the records, then you don't have the luxury of having maybe the imperfections being there because they actually are okay.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's just the way the world is today. So I think it depends on what kind of train you're on.
Yeah. That's
um,
so true.
because the way things are going is like, yeah, like the plus the DAW has a habit of telling you when something's wrong versus like
Yeah.
a multi-track. It's kind of like what you hear is what you get, and what you played is what you get, right? So it's kind of like what you were
Mhm.
able to put into that, and it's a different strategy when you're putting into like a 16 track multi-track versus a DAW. You're
Right.
if you play that bass line, you played it live for 4 minutes. There might be micro mistakes in it, but there's something
Yeah.
about the way it sounds going into the multi-track compared to the DAW that I might actually keep the multi-track, even though it's got micro errors in it. It might just sound, you know what I mean? There's a difference.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
That's
absolutely. I've definitely done that before too.
but yeah, it just depends on what you feel. Because like if you get the feel could be like you could have a crazy mic, right? You could have like $20,000 mic, and then you did something on a way cheaper mic, but the way you did it, for some reason, when you're on that crazy expensive mic, you didn't do the performance the same as you did on the cheaper mic. And
Yep.
the cheaper mic performance is so heartfelt and so unique, and you can't seem to capture it again. That it's actually
Yeah.
worth just taking that and letting the engineer fix it.
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
absolutely. Yep.
uh, yeah, it's just different. It's a case by case thing. When you're writing, it's all art. So
Mhm.
nothing's ever it's completely wrong or right. You kind of like what you feel.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever I say today, you throw it out the window tomorrow.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know, it's just how you feel. But so for this year, are you on a single strategy? Is this song like part of a bunch of singles that are coming, or are you focused on this one for a while to push?
Yeah, a few singles are coming. I'm doing one pretty much every other month. So
Mm,
this one's going to be kind of the one for a little bit. And then I'm putting out the next one in May. And then I'm putting out one more in the summertime. And then I'll be putting out an EP in the fall. And that's going to have
awesome.
these 3 singles and then 2 more songs. Yeah, I'm really excited about it. And I'm really excited about all the songs too. I think all of the songs are definitely like my strongest work yet. And I've been working with some awesome co-writers and producers, and I'm really pumped for all this new stuff coming out. Yeah.
So when you have the full EP together, will you tour it, or are you going to tour your song like with the other songs you've written in before? Are you going to wait to like do a full tour when the full album EP comes out, or just tour like the summer?
Yeah, yeah. A little bit of both. I'm doing a little Midwest tour at the end of April. That's going to finish in Nashville, promoting the first couple of songs because that'll be right before my second single comes out. And then in July, around the time of the third single, I'm going to be actually up in New England doing some shows. So that'll be kind of like touring the few songs that are out, telling people that I got an EP on the way. And then I think in the fall, I definitely want to get some more dates. I want to have like a pretty big show here in Nashville. And then once
Mhm.
I do, I'll probably try to like book some stuff around that. But yeah, definitely 2 shows or 2 tours rather on the books for now with more in the
That's
fall.
good.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
tours are able to complete pretty good now in the environment. The way the environment is like they're not getting canceled for the old COVID reasons anymore. That you're able to maintain them.
Yeah, which is good. Most of the ones that I have been doing are either in like large spaces or they're outdoors, which is really
Hmm.
great, or like they're just organized by folks that are very like cautious about making sure everybody has their own space, which is great. Um,
That's
but
cool.
yeah, yeah, generally like when we do tours, we'll just do like 4 or 5 dates. It's not anything like super long, which is nice because we can
Hmm.
kind of go do our thing and then come back without, hopefully getting
Burned
sick or
out. Like the
anything.
old school, yeah, the old school days, like in the 70s, they used to take bands and just run them through the ringer. And you just be going
Yeah.
on and on and on, and they wonder why people got unhealthy. It's like it's
Yeah.
like if you take a guy, you put them on the road for 6 months, and then they're just in hotels for 6 months. That does not usually equate to healthy living.
No, and
You
that's a
know,
long
it's just
time
hard.
too.
Yeah, it's hard to stay stable when you're in that kind of environment because you're like you're this. and I don't think they really thought about it. They're trying to make the money, and they're just trying to,
Yeah.
trying to make the, well, also trying to satisfy the demand of the fans, and then
Sure,
people not
sure.
knowing how to say no. Like you're overcommitted. Like I think
Yeah,
artists
yeah.
today are starting to realize, don't put yourself into a situation that actually puts you, like, why would you put yourself into a thing where suddenly it's not fun to, because you love what you do, but why don't let yourself, you put your, into the scenario that becomes like it's not exciting anymore.
Yeah, it's almost like you kinda and, like, you
But,
don't need to be doing that much. I feel like if you're strategic about what you have on the books and what you're doing, it's kinda like you can let those things speak for you and then take a break and reset and then go again.
yeah, I read it like Hendrix used to always get put on the treadmill. Like, I mean, they put him on these crazy tours, cross country, have to go all the way cross country, come back, doing this really excessive amount of touring just because his management didn't really care. Um, and
Wow.
um, yeah, you read the kind of horror stories. These are big, big talents, and they didn't,
Mm,
know how to say no. And because they had
yeah.
ego, and they said, "Well, I'm Hendrix, or I'm the Who, I'm Led Zeppelin," the mind, they didn't think of what that does to you. And I think it's just cool today that
Yeah.
artists are a little bit more self-aware of what it does, and want to not be unhealthy. You want to be able to be doing it, and not, not be able to do it.
Yeah, exactly, you don't wanna burn out.
Yeah, because it's a big thing, in terms of, like, just the art in itself. Is that sometimes artists will take, like, crucibles. A lot of times, like, songwriters, they take the things that happen to them, but then it's like, okay, the crucible moments are what makes your hits, but does that mean you have to actually have crucible moments in your life to be that artist? Do you have to put yourself in that scenario over and over, or can
Mm,
you kind of, you know, be unhappy? Because I think there
yeah,
was a famous thing
sure.
with James Taylor. James Taylor's, like, best songs were when he had a lot of chaos and a lot of problems in his life. Then he got married, he got happy,
Yeah,
he put out a record, and then the critics said, "Oh, this isn't good." But, like, he was happy, and so the album reflected he was happy, and then the audience didn't like it because it wasn't like, I seen fire in the rain, it wasn't the pain anymore, and
right.
people didn't know how when he was happy. So then you were like, "Oh, do I have to be unhappy to be famous?"
Yeah.
Do I have to have those bad things happen, and I have to, create chaos for me to have the art? So I guess it's a way of an artist is like, how can I be creative enough to not have to live through it?
Yeah.
But, that's just something I've noticed.
Oh,
So
for
yeah,
sure.
it's
Sure.
been great been talking to you because it's always cool to talk to musicians because I've been expanding my show where I haven't been able to talk to as many musicians as I like to. So yeah, if you know more musicians that would like to be interviewed, that's always cool for me. So yeah, anybody in Nashville that would uh, want to have the same kind of show we're having right now, yeah, we're open to that. So yeah, we always think of it as a collective, like as a podcast. We in the past have had bedroom producer festivals where we've had like
Oh,
3 day
cool.
festivals back in 2021 and 2020 where we actually had a bunch of bands play Friday, Saturday, Sunday live, like unplugged sessions through this as a festival, like the Peg Bedroom Producer Festival.
Oh,
And we
cool.
encourage other artists to come on the show and just talk about their work because we like to, that's our mission. Our original mission from 2016 is to draw attention to people we think need attention.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No, this has been great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you very much, everybody. For those who are on the audio podcast, again, go to www.staceykellehermusic.com. And what will people find there?
They'll find all my music. They'll find upcoming show dates if they're in Nashville. There's also some dates that I'm going to be on tour if you're somewhere else. And you can also get in touch with me on my website as well if you're looking to have a show or connect, just say hi, whatever it is. All my stuff's on there and you can hit me up on there.
That's cool. We always encourage people to click on the links when these get published. They are clickable. That right now is not clickable, but once it goes to the permanent link on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, it will be clickable. So we do encourage you to click through and check out the artists that we present here by supporting them, subscribe to them, put them on a playlist, send them to your friends. If they're on YouTube, subscribe to their YouTube. Everywhere the artist is, if they've got merch, buy their merch, because that's what it's about. Like a lot of times I'll go through this again. Like if you watch your favorite YouTuber and you donate to them, then donate to your favorite musician. If they have a way to do that, buy their merch, buy their t-shirts, buy their album, go to the shows. That's how you support music. And thank you for being on the Fam Electric Ghost Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, have a good day.
Thanks, you too.